Awesome. So we are recording. We're going to do part two today. We're going to be going through the mixing of the tracks that we have there. And just off air, we were just talking about MIDI controllers, which was really fascinating. Larry was just recommending a Korg Nano, which is in
I've
the chat.
just put a link for it in the chat.
Perfect. Yeah. There you go. So there's the link up there. But so we're going to continue on and finish this track, wrap this one up. I will say a couple of things before we dive in. Um, uh, Gary brought up a great idea today of kind of like, what would I do if I don't have these $100 or, you know, 100, 200, 300, 400, $500 virtual instruments? What could I use with something a little bit more simpler? And I'm going to play with a few different ideas that you could kind of do, but I'd probably say that there's three main options if you want to get competitive tracks. And this is a great thing for everyone to know, even people watching the replay. This is really important to know. So the first thing I would probably default to is if strings wasn't I just wasn't that strong with strings, but I was great with piano. First of all, find a collaborator that is really good with the strings, because your track is just going to be amazing, and you didn't have to work hard. You didn't have to work at all, work harder than you didn't have to figure out anything new. You didn't have to spend the time. So I love that's what I do a lot. I'll collaborate for my weaknesses. So I'm like, you know, when I first started, I'd collaborate a lot with people mixing, because I was like, I don't know how to mix at all, you know, but I know how to sing and record, but I don't know how to do. So collaborating is probably your best bet. Second is, you know, if you got the budget, you know, get some of these really expensive libraries. And then obviously the third thing is, well, like, I guess the third thing is use what you've got. And some of the things you can use is Splice. Splice has actually really nice audio, recorded already audio files of strings, and you can kind of manipulate them and kind of change them, because they are kind of reels. They're kind of real strings. You know, you find ones that sound really good. So that's an option. And I'll walk through I'll go through exact process of what I would do for those, to make those articulations just to make it breathe a little bit more. And then the other option is to the sample library that you do have, whatever strings it is, go ahead and I'll do the same thing. There's a few different articulations that you can do, even just doing volumes for your dynamics. So you can start a little bit softer and then go up. And then sometimes, you know, you can move it, you can kind of move the volumes with the things, because as a violin player, as a string player, when you first attack the note, if you tack it fast and hard, it has a bit of a, you know, a little bit of a scratchy sound. So you always kind of start light, and then once you're into the note, after a couple of split seconds, you get louder because you're really into that note, and then you'll kind of like come off. So it's kind of like, you'll start soft, because otherwise you'll get that big scratchy sound, and then you'll go up, and then you'll kind of like let go to the next one. So it always has these little bit of waves. And then the vibrato, depending on how that's a kind of a style thing, you know, depending how big the vibrato one, but normally it kind of starts off with, so it's anyway. So less talk from you, Steve. Let's dive in. So I just want to dive in here. So let's go share my screen. All right, so I got the chat open here. So of course, ask any questions. I am here to help you guys. I want this to be so informative and helpful. So the first thing I am going to do is I am going to try find something that kind of sounds good on Splice, and we'll see what we can kind of do with it. Now, I haven't listened to this track yet, so like today. So let's go over here and see what we can find on just strings. Let's do long. See if that comes up with anything. Can you guys hear that? Was that clear? Okay, cool. Let me know if you can't hear or something. That's nice, that note. So this guy here, those sound really, really nice. I'm gonna click on that and see if it comes up with the pack that it actually comes from. Yeah, so that might have a lot of cool stuff in here. So We're at 120 now. If you're going to do this based off strings, which is kind of a cool way to start a track, I would probably start with strings, then play the piano around it. Whatever you're more accustomed with. If you're a piano player on this one, or a guitarist, if this was guitar strings, then you can play around what you get. So I would pick, if you're gonna look, this one's in D, it's a flutter. It'll take a little bit trying to find some things that really kind of fit. I really like that one. So that's at 70 beats per minute, string quartet swells. I wonder if there's anything more like that. Cool. So you've got some chords there. So you could, I think that's a B chord there, and then this one would be. So you might be able to kind of use these and then play your piano around. It looks like this might be a B flat. So that's like a B flat minor. So you'd kind of have to find the find it with the strings first and then put your pianos around. So that's kind of one way. But I'll tell you what, those strings are really nice. It might take a little bit of finessing of putting different parts together. But if you're able to put like just big long chords coming in and separate chords coming in, that might be nice mix with your maybe cheaper or less expensive sample pack or not sample pack, but virtual instruments. So that might be one option as well. And so those actually sound really nice. So then another one, let's do this. I'm just going to duplicate this track, but I'm just going to put some cheaper strings on it, something that's, or just more simple, I guess, something that's just a little bit more simple. Well, I think Avid might have something. So you found so say you found something like that. Let's just play with that. These are some of the things that I would do to it. So can you guys hear that all right? Give me the thumbs down if you can't hear it, or let me know. So right there, you can kind of hear it's very, like, I'll play the difference compared to a different sample pack. This is a different sample pack. Keep in mind it's 300 or 400 bucks or something. So this is chamber strings by Spitfire, and just hear the difference. And I haven't done too much to it. I've done a little bit of dynamics on the other one, on this one, but not too much, but you'll hear the difference. But yeah, so you can definitely tell there's less dynamic range in there, and it's kind of almost down, like there's no movement in there. So one of the simple things I would do here is just go to our volume. This is a very simple one, and you can just play with this volume, or you can write it a little bit, which is when you write it, it's a little bit more flowing. And actually, no, I'm just going to draw it. See, this will sound a lot. I'm just putting a kind of a peak in there in the middle of the note, because that's what a player would do. Let's exaggerate just a little bit. So that already, that sounds a bit better than. Without it. It's just so flat. You can just hear it just so flat. So just having that little bit of dynamic range of going up and down it makes a big difference. So that's just a lot more expression. It's just amazing. And I used to do this a lot when I was before I had the money to buy a better sample library. And now when you're playing, when just got to think like that instrument, and it so helps, watching a couple of tutorials on how that instrument is played, or what kind of thinks, or and as we are, a lot of us are multi-instrumentalists. Go into a music store and play around with some of these instruments and just see how the sound comes out, and watch somebody, and you just getting a little bit of understanding makes you think of that a little bit like them, and how it is to play a trumpet or play a woodwind instrument, and how that's like it's hard to get with a woodwind, you can it's just so much different kind of thing. And with strings here, as we're talking, there's also vibrato, and vibrato is kind of like going, you've got the note, but then you go sharp, then you go flat, then you go sharp, then flat, and I'm talking like tenths of a percentage of the note, but that's what the vibrato is. So let's see how we can do some vibrato. The pitch bend. So let's see what this sounds like. I haven't done this. Now, you wouldn't start with vibrato. You probably have vibrato more in that middle here. So let's just see how this goes. I haven't done this, I don't think, ever. So we're going to see here. We're not going to go much. I don't even know. We'll see what this sounds like. Ah, too much. So let's do a little bit less. Yeah, even less than that, but I don't know if you guys could hear that. That's starting to sound real. It's like this tiniest little bit. You could probably even do less than that. Just on the end of the note. Yeah, let's put the volume in there. I don't know if you guys are hearing that, but that's like, we're talking, that was 3% better, more real. And then the other one was maybe 8% or 10% better. And now you're collecting together, and you've got a lot better than those static ones. So here's with it. We'll play it one more time with it, and then I'll delete both of those and we'll play them again. just that little bit of movement makes it feel real. Just makes it feel like this is real. It's a real player. They're not perfect, and that's what gives them character. And yeah. So those are just a couple little tips on how to get strings if you don't have um, if you don't have these higher end ones. But strings are always a tricky one. And for me, when I first started, I just collaborated. So I was like, I'm a guitarist. I'm just going to get the guys that are got the heavy, real heavy plug-in, get the guys that have got those samples, and I'll just get them to do it. But that's a great way to kind of do it, to kind of just breathe some life into your MIDI tracks. And of course, you can do that with trumpet and any of the brass instruments as well. So anyway, so let's jump now into my track. Let's delete that one. All right, let's listen from the beginning. I haven't heard it since I did it the other day. All right, not too bad. There's a lot of things I want to change. It's definitely very slow. I'm at 72 beats per minute, which is fine. It is what I was feeling slow the other day when I wrote it, I guess. So I want to put a little bit more reverb on this, just on that main piano. Then I also want to go and make sure I go ahead and get those sustain notes. Let's get this out of the way. I want to get some of those sustain pedal. And this is a little trick that I do because I never quite get it exactly right, and I like it kind of perfect. So I'm going to do it on every chord. I go and do this manually. Get the tiniest little, most smallest ever up and down on your pedal. I'm just going to copy that. I don't know if you guys kind of saw that one, but this one's late. I'm supposed to come off around here, and so I'm just making this like flawless. And I'm going to do the same with the melody. So all I'm doing here for, and if you're not quite sure, I'm just making sure I'm kind of fast at it, but I'm just putting it on just before I'm copying and pasting I'm putting the pedal down and then taking it back off, but I'm doing it in a super fast way. Now keep in mind too, you might be a piano player. I'm not a piano player. I don't call myself a piano player. So these are just some hacks, I guess. If you nail it right out of the gate and it feels good, then you might even have to do anything. Now, I'm also not doing them on every single measure. I'm kind of like just doing them kind of like a bit more as it's feeling, as I feel like it should have. Like, and so the notes don't kind of fade over each other, but some do, but some don't. So it just gives a little bit more natural. Cool. All right, so I'm fine with that for now. I've got a little bit more the foot pedal's a little too loud. Definitely on that. Let me see if I can cut it down a little bit, especially on that first. That's nice. Okay, so that's not coming through in a solid. That's on the there. It's not coming through the bus. All right, so now I got rid of some viola. I put some viola in there when I was recording the other day, but I didn't like it throughout. But now it feels empty right around here where it did come in. It needed something. So I'm just going to play from here and maybe mute these viola notes and come in where something needed to come in there. Yeah, coming in there. And just long notes as I kind of build. I think I'm gonna keep it in there, the viola, but just long notes. I don't want anything moving. I'm just gonna have it kind of echoing the cello a little bit. All right, now we're hearing a bit of a note kind of hold out there, this cello. So I want to stop that there. Might actually add another note. Maybe that note. Maybe not. So all I did there is just copy those because I like those harmonies of some higher strings. This chamber strings, I'd have to research, but I don't know how many strings are playing there. It might be like I'd have to find out, but it sounds like quite a few. There's probably like, I don't know, sounds like 10, 10 or 12 first chair violins there. So it's quite nice, quite big. But I'd have to find out exactly how many there was. Obviously, you have a few more functions on this as well. I'm just going to go to, I think I'm going to have just a little bit closer on those microphones on the trees there and put a little bit of my own reverb on there because I want to make sure that all these violins sound like they're in the same room. And if I put this far, it's going to have a lot of this reverb. And then I go over here and the viola has this reverb, already in it. And I don't want to, I want them all to feel like they're playing in the same room. So I want to turn down make it a little bit more closer here. So then I'll use the one reverb, which I have sent here. This sends down to the reverb that I have down here, which is just my go-to Valhalla vintage verb that I've been using for a long time. Concert hall. Sounds great. Just this default. I've got the lows cut off so there's not going to be any mud. So there's the sounds that go, like the reverbed sound that comes to my mix is not going to have any lows in it. So I'm not going to have to worry about, getting lows in the reverb there. So let's keep going back here. Now I did hear the piano foot pedal, the sustain. I did hear it, and I don't think I like it right there. So I might even take that, bring that. See if I can get rid of it by just moving the over here somewhere. Yeah, maybe even further back. If I can cut it just before that end note ends. Yeah, and I want oh, thank you, Larry. So 16 players on chamber strings, 4 first violin, 3 second chair violin, 3 violas, 3 cello, 3. Okay, great. Okay, so it's not as big as I thought. So very nice. Yeah, thanks for finding that out. It's great. Okay, so I want this to be a little bit bigger. So I'm actually going to go in and use some of my own dynamics here instead of velocity. I'm just actually going to put my own dynamics a little bit as it comes into this next part. I'm going to do that on everything, just kind of finessing it as I want to. Okay, so I just did a little bit of my own dynamics myself. I'll often do this too, just to make the strings just breathe that little bit more, just according to how I want it to kind of go. You know, it's if you're in the orchestra playing, you're going to be playing along with the other guys, and you're just going to feel it. You're following the conductor. You're just going to feel it, and you're going to feel people around you just getting louder, and you get louder, and you're just breathing. And so that's what I just wanted, and I like that. So let's go back to the top, or where the strings come in. Let me just hear some of these harmonies. I think there's a few notes I don't like. All right, there's a little bit of weird stuff happening here in this cello. Sometimes they don't, if you put them, when you're actually playing a real instrument, you can see this right here, actually. This is why it's causing it to be weird. See if I can zoom up here. So the cellos there's one cello playing here, and he somehow is playing one note and he jumps down to the next note, that does not happen in real life unless it's an open string or something. So I'm just going to tuck that just before, so he has enough time to split second to get to that next note, which obviously makes sense. And I'm going to do that, and that's going to get rid of that little weird thing that it's doing. So something weird happened there too. Now, there's so much stuff you can dive into as you study strings and stuff. Like you can change where it goes into a different kind of the way it plays depending on the velocity. So I've hit I think it was a 60 velocity. So I think it changed. Where are we here? So 54. So it might have changed from the 22 down here. No, that's 60. Where are we? Oh, this is the one. That's 58. That's 39. So sometimes they change different. And as I said, I'm not super pro on the strings. I still have to do a lot of finessing myself, but this is kind of how you get kind of closer to the sounds. But of course, you know, if you want to get really good at this, you got to become an expert in this instrument, and the instrument is the actual VI. So you end up getting an expert. You know all the parameters. You know exactly how to finesse it and make it. You know, and that saves you. They'll save you a lot of money than hiring a cello player every single time if you don't have access to a cello player. Anyway, let's keep going here. So another thing too, when I'm playing my strings, you have to change your bow, and the bowing, obviously you go down on the bow and then up a bow. If it's a cello, it's the same thing. You have to change your bow at some point. You can't go indefinitely. So I like to do that on every measure at least. So I won't hold too much over. I'll probably just do it on one measure, and then I'll do that same note again. So as you can kind of see with this cello, I did the note, and then I did it again on the next measure, which is a bow change. You'd go down and then you go up bow or whatever you start on. And so that's going to give it a little bit more of a realistic feel. And then this one, the velocity is 69. This one is 77. So, and that's going to make it feel better than just one long bow. Even with good samples, they'll fade out as well because it's impossible to play for too long. All right, so there we go. Cool. And when I hit the last parts of the, I like to ring them out, and I like to do fades on them. So that's just something I like to do. I won't make them stop necessarily. I'll just let them fade and then down to nothing. This is the cello here. There's too many notes up there. Da na na na. It's too on the nose. It's too cheesy. So I might just take one out. Yeah, that's better. Now I like to, on these individual strings, I like to do their own fade because as much as you possibly can think of, well, if you just want it to be as real as possible. And if you have, as we said before, if you had 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 16 players, they're not all going to finish at the same time. They're going to finish very similar at the same time, but they're not going to be, and that what gives us that dynamic of that full, such a big sound, because they're all kind of rapid. They're all, you know, going quieter, and they're finishing their song and finishing at a different time minutely, like within milliseconds. So having each one finish a little different or its own fade, it's going to make it feel more like different parts, different players, or we're all kind of, but it's not just one big meow. It isn't just the guy on the mixer turning it down. It just gives it that little bit more individuality of each player. And although we have this here, the string ensemble is still 16 players, as Larry said, it's still 16 players, but then we have one over here and one over there. So we got 16, 17, 18 players. And so technically we've got them all, we've got 3. So you could dial in and not use an ensemble and actually just dial in and go through 16 different players. That will give it even a bigger sound. Each separate player, each unique thing, it'll just sound even bigger. And so that's another thing you can do as well. It takes a lot of computer power for sure, but I could put, do it exactly like do four violins, and then do 3 second chair violins, 3 violas, and 3 cellos, and 3 bass, and then just have 16, 17 tracks. It would take a lot of computer power, but that would actually sound probably even bigger and richer and full. Awesome. All right, let's have a listen from the top. I'm gonna start doing a little bit of mixing now and kind of start heading towards getting a bounce down. One of the things I want to do is I want to decide which parts I want to be clear in the mix. And so the piano, the lead piano doesn't need to have any lows in it. It needs just high stuff. So I'm going to go over to the lead part, the lead one. I'm just going to make sure I got an EQ that's just taking a lot of that high, just a lot of the low stuff. I don't need any of it. So we're going to have a look at what we need there and on that lead. Now I'm going to add something here, another little plugin that I've got. I'm going to give it some 40K, which is some air, which is really kind of cool. Where is it? So this plugin here, the Mag EQ, has a cool feature. It gives you the air band, which is 40K above. I can't even hear up to it. When we're born as babies, we can hear about 20K, maybe 22. And then as you go to more concerts and play loud music, it drops down. But so this is going to just give it an air kind of sounding way up here, but it's going to sound lighter, and it's going to be, I would probably give it a 1 or 2% difference. So it's not much. All of this should be just should be at 0. Nothing else has changed here. Off, 0. Yep. So it's just the band we're giving it, just the and these are linked. These are linked together. So let's have a listen, see if we can hear the difference. I don't know if you guys can hear it through Zoom, but yeah, that's nice. I think I might be able to hear just a little bit of air in that. So let's get rid of some of this reverb on some of these other instruments, if they have any reverb on it, because I don't want anyone else's reverb. I only want to have the main everything in the same room. Let me see here. Transitions. Where that reverb is, it might be in that channel. Let me have a look over here with the other guys as well. Good question. Vicky, what is the BPM range for these? I would say anywhere between 70 to 100. We want to keep it emotional, which is, kind of the sad kind of tempos. So whatever it is, I'd probably keep it around there, but it's not too strict as long as it sounds emotional. Later on we could do an album of energetic or fun or uplifting, and then the tempo would go up. But yeah, keep the beats per minute a lot slower. This one's really slow. I don't know why I think I did it in the afternoon or morning, whatever. I was just slow. It was probably after my coffee had worn off or before a coffee. But yeah, this one's pretty slow. I wouldn't go any lower than 70. This one's 72. It's the second one I did. The first one I did was more of an arpeggiated thing. I kept moving, and maybe I'll open that as well so you guys can kind of hear the same kind of sound. Yeah, I'll do that after I finish this. So I guess let's keep heading on. We're getting there to the mixing stage. The strings are a little bit too loud, but I have a lot of automation going already. So I'm actually going to pull the strings down a little bit over here on the strings main bus. That is bugging me. That I don't know what that is. It might have been the velocity was just too quiet. It's a little bit better, but there's also a note that's sustaining from one of these chords I don't like that's hitting it. No. Yeah, that first part of that note, I'm not liking. I wonder if it is that note, just how it's recorded. It's just a little bit funky or something. See if it happens over here. maybe from crossing that string there. Maybe that's better. I think that's better. Yeah. And when that viola comes in, I'm going to turn up the volume a little bit, just a dynamic. Yeah, it's starting to sound a lot better. So there's one more trick I like to do. You create a huge long reverb or another delay, or sorry, another reverb, but you just make it super long. So I'm just going to type that long verb. This is another cool thing, but you mix it really low, but it's a really long reverb. So let's long verb. Let's add a little bit of long verb to all these as well. So that's going to create just even bigger, just a kind of a depth underneath. Okay. Wow. So can you hear that, guys? Where what I'm going to do there is I'll mute it. You can kind of hear it's playing there. It's like this really long verb still going. So this is great. So what you do is when you put these effects on, some of these effects, if you don't want it to be a main part, but you want it buried down, almost like an ambience kind of thing, you just pull it down to the volume that you think it would work, and you just push mute. So yeah, it just creates such an ambience. So that is great. That's what we want. Maybe a little too long. Cool. I guess we got the piano. I don't mind full range on the piano, except for the lead melody. So now I'm just getting into kind of wrapping up a first mix. We've been going for about an hour. I usually start wrapping up a mix about an hour in. So so now I'm just kind of on my mastering side. I'm looking for clarity. I'm not going to do too much compression. I want to kind of like use more natural kind of things because it doesn't need to be squashed and it doesn't need to be super loud either. So I'm going to make sure that my limiter isn't working too hard. And I'm just gonna kind of work on my mastering channel here, just a kind of a go-to that I've used for a while. Whoops. Hang on. It's not the one. Where is it? There it is. I just have a setting already set up. If you've watched some of my other videos, you know where it's set up is just a tiny little bit of not even 1 dB of what frequency we have here. 7.5K. Just spreading it out a little bit. You'll hear the difference when without within. Did a slower attack on some of those things, so I don't want to beat it up. I don't want it to squash it too quick. So yeah, so let's just have a listen to where's the loudest part of the song? Probably in here. I don't know if you saw there, but I have probably that was -3. That's too much for this song. I just want to be touching on probably -1 dB of gain reduction. All right, let's bounce it down. Always make sure those endings are really nice. good time for a break. Good questions here, guys. I'll answer Gary's. Gary says, Steve, is that piano sound just from the plugin? Yeah, it's a really nice piano. I really like this piano. I've been using it for a while. It's by, who's it by? Sound Iron. It's by a company called Sound Iron, like an Anvil or whatever it is. Iron, Sound Iron. I'll put it in the chat. Sound Iron. It's emotional piano. I've been using it for a while. I love it. First time I heard it, I'm just like, oh man, it's so nice. So yeah, that's just the piano there. It's a very emotional piano. There are so many good pianos out there too. So find that one that has that sound that you want to use. I've been using this a lot. I am not sick of it, but sometimes if I want something more poppy, I'll do Alicia keys or a different kind of keys. There's many different pianos, but for emotional piano, hey, it's titled emotional piano. So there you go. So it's a really, really nice one. And yeah, I haven't done much to it. I haven't done much tweaking to it at all. This is the jazz one. There's a few different versions, like meaning inside of the pack you get, there's one called Blur, you get one called Master, you get one called, there's a bunch of different ones and it's all dialed in. But yeah, that's the piano. It's really nice. And Jackie says, for that really long reverb you did, would you put a high pass filter on that, or just listen to make sure it doesn't get too muddy, or does that not matter since you're mixing it in really low? Both, because it's really low. Maybe you want some low stuff, but in this case I don't. And to get away from that muddy stuff, if you don't want, definitely go ahead and put a high pass filter. On there, I actually I think I bumped my high pass filter up a little bit. So this is the low cut. So anything from 560 gets cut out. So that definitely doesn't have, but to keep things a little bit clearer, yeah, I would add a little bit. I would take, I think that was 550 somewhere there. So yeah, I would put that low, make sure you got that low cut on it, so no low stuff comes out. So if I actually put an EQ on the other side of this, it should come up with, there should be no lows there. Let's see. Should have cut them out. There's not much it goes down from 500. So the curve must be a very slight gradual curve, because you're still getting a bit of 700 in there as it goes down. You can definitely see it when I go to 0 there. You just got to rumble. Yeah, you don't need that, and especially on a big track. Not this track, not this song here, but on a big song where you got lots of stuff, you do want to make sure you cut that. You don't want any of that. And but in this case, it probably wouldn't matter too much. But yeah, good question. All right, let's bounce it down. Yeah, let's bounce this one down, and then that'll be the first mix for me, and usually it takes 2 or 3 mixes. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to play it right from the top. So yeah, so if you've got any other questions, pop them in the chat, but I'll do one more bounce down and we'll play it as we're doing it. And actually I'll just play it here. Here we go. I'll show you some of the plugins I'm using as we go down. go. So we are done. So I'm going to bounce that down now. Let's bounce this down. All right, titles. All right, this is always fun. Titles. We are going to call this something emotional. Emotional piano strings. Piano heartbeats, or no, it doesn't have a beat in it, but piano heartstrings. I don't know. Now you guys know what I go through. You guys probably all go through it too. What do we name this? Heart feels. There we go. Heart feels. That'll be fun for me. All right, there we go. There we go. Awesome, guys. Well, there you go. So hopefully that's been helpful to everyone. And of course, strings is something that it's quite interesting. I'm actually in the process of practicing violin every day, because manipulating strings is just it's a big job, trying to get the strings to sound right. So I'm actually doing it old school, and I think better is practice. I learned violin years ago when I was in school, did about 3 years. And so I'm actually practicing 10, 15 minutes every day, probably about 4 days a week. So I'm not perfect, that's for sure. But I'm practicing it, like, just to get better, just so I can do some of those longer notes, because that's going to trump all of this, and it's like, especially if you put a bed of strings down and then you pull out your violin or viola or whatever, and you put a real string on top, it's just like going to be like, wow, so it's but yeah, strings is quite a tricky one to kind of manipulate, but just keep working, right? Keep trying, and just try and think of as much as you can like individual players, and you'll always get a better sound. And Jackie asked a good question. When you go to bounce down your deliverables, what instruments would you mute for the no melody version, since you have a couple of instruments that could be considered melodies? Great question. And for me, when I was writing it, I just told myself that piano, the extra piano. So I have 2 pianos there, a rhythm one, and then I just have a simple one, just doing a couple of simple notes up high. That would be the one. I already, made that decision when I was actually arranging it, and I'm like, that's your melody. So that would be the no melody version. But yeah, in a song like this, it's like, well, it's not that melodic, it's like there's not that many, it's not like da 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 da, it's not a catchy thing. It's just something, when it takes away, it'll just be even more less melodic, I guess. But that's what I chose on this one. If you wanted to pick a violin that has a melody, you could do that too if you wanted a higher instrument doing a melody. But for this one, yeah, that's what I would bounce down. And of course, this one doesn't have drums and bass, so makes it easier. So we don't have to do that bounce down, so that's good. But yeah, there you go, guys. So if I can do it, you can do it. Do you find arpeggios work best for under the melody? All the above. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. I do personally like arpeggios a little bit better. And let me actually, I was going to open up this other track. I'll open up real quick. I haven't finished this one, but you'll see another idea. This might help as well. So it's called Piano Strings 1, or just Piano Strings. So in this one, I actually had a da 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 or something like that. So it's kind of a arpeggiated thing, and you'll hear the same thing. These both can be worked exactly for this album. Let me play this one. Put it inside the box. There we go. this one here is way better than the other one. I think when I was playing it and everything, I'm like, I really like that one. But then the second one is the one I decided to be like, okay, this is what I'm going to turn the camera on and record. And so that's why if you've been in any of my courses, or everybody knows, 3 is your number. Do 3, because you'll get one that it just felt right. It just worked. It's just what you wanted. And the next one that you're like, this is the one. That just doesn't, I don't know, the stars don't align or whatever. And so that's why I always do them in batches, because you just don't know. And normally it's the third one or the second or third one I do better. I do the first one, it's like, second one I'm getting it together. Third one I'm like, okay, I got it dialed in. This is the sounds I want. But they all get signed and they all get sent off, and you let the world judge, and you just collect the royalties when they come in, and you just do the whole process. So yeah, they both work. That one was in 75 beats per minute, and so it wasn't that faster, but because it had a lot more moving, it felt faster. And so for an album like this, you need all the above. You need this really slow ones, and then you want some ones that are kind of like moving. And that arpeggiator went down, I believe. I believe it was going down. No, my bad. It was going up. Da 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 da. But sometimes going down on the arpeggio kind of works. So it's kind of feeling sad. It's going down. But anyway, all right, guys, I'm gonna let you go. Yeah, I'm glad it's a little helpful. Maybe next time I'll show the 2 examples as well. I usually do 2 or 3 before we get going. And but yeah, hopefully that helps. And again, I highly encourage you guys to collaborate. Because you could do the same piano. Like if you're a piano player, you could do the same piano thing, send it off to someone to do the strings. They all of a sudden are in a different mind, and they're like, oh, I'm going to do the strings, then it's going to sound like this. And you pretty much almost did the same kind of ideas. You got your ideas out, but by collaborating, it comes up with a brand new piece that you totally wouldn't have come up with. So these are always great for collaborating. So all right, awesome, guys. Well, have a wonderful afternoon, and I will see you guys in the chat.